cover HQs, and we're gonna have Saint Celestine here. She would be the best HQ choice for almost any Sisters of Battle list, particularly in 6th edition, where Warlord and potentially First Blood are important for points in almost every game. So, covering Saint Celestine, if you're playing Sisters of Battle, she's probably the best HQ choice to take because she's 115 points. She's a independent character. She's jump infantry, so she has the ability to deep strike. If she's with a unit that's jump, say Seraphim, then she can deep strike. She, in many ways, is wearing Terminator armor. In that this armor is the armor of St. Catherine. Gives her a 2+ armor save. She has the 6+ Shield of Faith, and then she wears a Rosarius, so she has her a 4+ invulnerable. So she's actually a little better than Terminator armor and not quite as good as Storm Shield Terminators. It is important to note with the FAQ, there's a couple things that really apply to her. One, her Rosarius can be removed by special abilities to get rid of war gear. So, for example, a Vindicator Assassin could knock it off with his Shield Breaker, but Shield of Faith cannot be removed, so she's always going to have at least a 6+ on her invulnerable save. She is jump infantry, so she has the ability to deep strike, and she flies, so she has a 12-inch movement when she's moving. And that gives her Hammer of Wrath now, but it's not very impressive because she's a 3+ strength, so really not that cool for the Hammer of Wrath. Saint Celestine is jump infantry, which means she can also get inside a vehicle. In the past, I don't think you could really do that, but now she's just considered bulky, so she takes up extra slots in the vehicle, but she can get in a vehicle, so it's possible for her to get inside an Immolator or a Rhino or a Repressor if you're using Forge World miniatures, and Repressor is actually a pretty good vehicle for many of the Sisters because you could fire many bolt or flame or any weapon out of the firing ports. In terms of why you want to take her, she is in many ways the toughest HQ to get rid of. She does die easily, and anyone who's played against her numerous times knows that late in the game you just want to hit her with a Strength 6 or higher weapon. If it's AP2, say a las cannon, she just has to fail one save and she's dead. She does have a 50% chance of coming back to life every round that she has been killed. So if she died in round 1, round 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7, you just roll on a 4+, she comes back to life, and then you roll a d3 for how many wounds she has. This is why people complain about her. She doesn't have Eternal Warrior, though, so there are some ups and downs to this, and that she does instant death fairly easily. She's an independent character, which means you can add her to any Imperial Guard or Sisters of Battle unit that can have independent characters attached to it. So big change for 6th edition, something that really is a big change to the game is that allies are allowed now. Sisters can only have one Blood Brother ally, and that's the Imperial Guard, but independent characters, which would include Saint Celestine here, can join Guard units. She's fearless, so if she were to join a Guard unit, that unit would become fearless, and that's the big benefit she gives to the Guard. So even if you played Guard and took Sisters allies to just for some change, she would be a big boost. She could be attached to a platoon that you don't want to run. She makes them fearless, and thus they can sit on an objective. She also has her Acts of Faith. She doesn't have any herself, but she benefits from any squad that has them. So if she were to attach to a Retributor squad, she would get a Rending Heavy Flamer with her weapon, or Rending Frag and Crack Grenades. She could be attached to a Dominion squad, in which case she would be twin-linked, which only applies to the wounds on her flamer, or if she were throwing a grenade, she would be twin-linked on her grenade. If you attached her to a Seraphim squad, which is what most people do, or it's a very common tactic, would be to put her in with the Seraphim squad, and then you can deep strike the whole squad. If she does that, when she gets the Seraphim's Act of Faith, she gets to reroll wounds, which is pretty impressive when you have a heavy flamer. that wounds most units fairly easily since it's strength 5. And I should point out, it's not actually a heavy flamer. Her sword here gives her a heavy flamer-like weapon, strength 5, AP 4. So it is in all intents and purposes a heavy flamer. Gives her the ability to do Wall of Death. That's in the FAQ. It is, however, a power sword, so it is AP 3. And it is a poison to power sword, as it has now been described in the FAQ, so she wounds on a 4+ against everything, unless her strength makes her wound at a lower number, but she's strength 3. She could get strength 4 with some warlord traits, but usually she's strength 3, so it's just not likely that she wounds on anything other than a 4-up, which is fine. So, what are some of the Tactica you should think about with Saint Celestine? 1, she's very difficult to remove, so you shouldn't, at least early in the game, have too much concern about putting her downrange into your opponent's deployment zone because, well, she can do a lot of damage, and she dies, she's got a high chance of coming back. She can deep strike, so that makes it pretty easy. I would personally say I usually take her with Warlord and put her with the personal traits, because a lot of them benefit her and the sisters significantly. She has a 1 in 6 chance of being a scoring unit. It's very hard to get rid of her. She has a decent chance of getting the outflank ability, which makes it pretty useful if she's going to go walking on with a unit against your opponent, because the outflank would let her come in on the side of the board. With the way that objectives often get put down, that allows her unit to stand and at least contest an objective. She is a denial unit, so she gets line breaker. What kind of units is she best with? She probably works best, honestly, with Seraphim. That's sort of well known by a lot of Sisters players. Since Seraphim can deep strike their jump infantry and she's jump infantry, you can deep strike them onto the board. The Seraphim's active face really boosts hers, since she then rerolls wounds with her shooting attack. So it's probably one of the better combos is to take Saint Celestine, drop her in with a small unit of Seraphim. They have hit and run, so that also helps her should she be assaulted by a dreadnought. The Seraphim have hit and run, which means the entire unit can get away on an initiative check. Now, it's probably based on the Seraphim's initiative, not hers, but it still lets them get out of combat where otherwise she would be locked in one place fighting a dreadnought. Other squads you can connect her to where it really benefits. She does help out with the Retributors if you're using, say, a quad cannon or something, but a Retributor squad not that helpful for her. The Dominions are going to have outflank, which would allow her to outflank, and that could be useful, but she has deep strike, so Dominion squad, she doesn't really boost their abilities that much. Their active faith makes them twin-linked. She doesn't need to worry about that too much because she has a flamer that would let her reroll to wound. Battle Sisters, she would make them fearless, which makes them pretty difficult to remove from an objective, but otherwise she's not that beneficial to them. Celestine squad and Repentia, Saint Celestine probably doesn't go well with them. She could be attached to a Repentia squad if you wanted to run them down the field and try to put an armor 2 character in front for the shooting, but that's probably not the best way to go. Talking about her stats and what makes her particularly useful, she's weapon skill 7, ballistic skill 7, initiative 7 with 5 attacks base. That means that almost everyone needs a 4 or 5+ to hit her in combat. She almost always goes first because she has assault grenades, the frag grenades. And so in a lot of combats, if she were to make the challenge, she's going to win the initiative at least. And if you take personal warlord traits, there's a 1 in 6 chance she'll get legendary fighter, which means if she were to make a challenge and win it, you get a victory point. And that's pretty useful because you can land her, boom, deep strike next to a unit that has a sergeant or something, and if your opponent isn't paying attention, she gets the challenge off on the sergeant. He agrees, accepts the challenge, and she'll kill him for a victory point. Well, if in 6th edition, she can throw a crack grenade, and she can throw it with pretty high accuracy because she's ballistic skill 7, so if you're going up against something that has high toughness, and yeah, the flamer is going to automatically hit, but it's pretty likely that the crack grenade will hit if she throws it, because she's ballistic skill 7. And the crack grenade is, of course, strength 6 instead of strength 5, so it's more likely to wound. Alright, what are some things you have to worry about with Saint Celestine? Well, you want to keep her away from dreadnoughts. The reason for this is Saint Celestine is fearless. She can never make a "our weapons are useless" decision and run. She's basically stuck in a fight with a dreadnought if that should happen, as is her unit, unless it's a Seraphim unit, in which case they can hit and run and try to get away. But if she gets attacked herself, she's stuck in combat. If it's a dreadnought that has anything other than front armor 12, let's say it's a Defiler or a Soul Grinder or a Librarian Dreadnought or something, she can't hurt it. Even with a crack grenade, she's going to be unable to even glance it. So she'll just be stuck there until the dreadnought manages to get through her armor and instant kills her. So it's a bad thing to get stuck against dreadnoughts. Against monstrous creatures, she has the ability to always wound them on a 4+. She's weapon skill 7, so she's pretty likely to hit them, but once again, a single wound will kill her, so you've got to be a little careful late in a game putting her up against a monstrous creature. Okay, Saint Celestine, probably your best choice for Warlord HQ in the new Sisters of Battle Codex, or the White Dwarf Codex, because she's a independent character, she's fearless, so she gives her unit fearless. She's got miraculous intervention, which means she returns to life on a 4+ the round after she's died, on through the entire game, so you get to roll every round. It doesn't matter why she's been killed or removed from play, even if she's pulled into a monolith gate, Tesseract Labyrinth, turned into a Chaos Spawn, whatnot, she's going to come back. So it's pretty useful, at least early in the game. You don't have to worry about her dying all that much. She has ballistic weapon skill and initiative 7, which is pretty impressive. That means she usually goes first. She has assault grenades, so she doesn't get reduced to initiative 1 when charging through terrain. She's jump infantry, so she can deep strike. And she has a poisoned weapon that wounds on a 4+, and it's AP 3, so she's pretty likely to put some wounds on her opponents, and thus is a great Warlord HQ choice, and would be my choice for almost any Sisters of Battle army, unless I was running a truly themed one that was, say, just the Ministorum, and in which case I would have to take Uriah or the Archconfessor, but she is probably the best overall for the Sisters of Battle.